G'day guys, this is actually going to be a rebuild of a radio installation for a customer of mine onto a D08 that he's purchased, running 10 powers radon, actinium motors, the Abisma combat low profile servo and the spectrum receiver. Now it's not going to be a really long build, it's really just a radio installation, but what I'm going to do is proceed and keep it short by speeding it up a little bit, but to give you an idea of what I do here and how a clean installation can be achieved without much great effort. So let's proceed. Okay, servo out, number one, new servo. These are actually pretty good servos out of Abisma, nice and tight. They had a couple of problems early on with a bit of slop on the actual teeth, but looks like they've actually cured most of those issues straight up, and they tend to be really good for what they need to do, which is supply direct steering for a lot of the RC cars. Now with these, I'm going to be putting what they call servo lockers into place, which are alloy, stop measures, to keep the servo from basically moving around, especially if you're trying to use, and you don't use plastic washers. They just don't work. Let's see what we can do here today. Oops, it'll be good if I put it the right way. It's going to sit like that. Okay, what we're going to do is use R.A.B servo stoppers. These are really good to lock your servo into an alloy mount. It stops it from moving around, and if you tend to have little hits here and there, it's really good for those reasons. Now we use just countersunkers for these, which will be a couple of screws, about 10 mil is all we need to use. Lots and lots of nuts and bolts. 1, 2, 2. Exactly 3. Is that good? Another 1. Jeez, this is getting desperate now for running out of screws. So I can't use that one. Oh, what do we got? 1, 2, 3. There you go. 3 countersunk. Because these little R.A.B servo washers, black. Basic black is always the best colour. Hides all your mistakes. How we mount them in is first onto the servo. And these are actually used by quite a fair few drivers just to lock in your servos to make sure that they can't move and cause problems on a bad installation. If you can see, countersunk, that's what they look like. 2 more. Once you put them in, then you can actually tighten them right down to make sure you get a nice clean snug fit, and you wouldn't believe the difference this makes apart from just using washers on top of the actual arms, which really doesn't work. It's a lot more positive, your steering stays constant, there's no movement if you have a hit instead of just a washer on top of a flathead screw, and it actually does, in many circumstances, depending on how you drive and what you do, saves your servo arms from actually splitting, because it's clamping over the top. It's actually not spreading the arms on the servo. Okay, that's it there. Now what we're going to do with this as well, it's going to shorten the wire too. We don't need this much wire here, but we're going to do that nearly to the end, and what we normally do here is bring the wire to the back of the servo. This is just to keep it a nice clean installation that you can actually get your wires to if you need to change anything instead of being too short and then it actually curls over. But you'll see that further down in the installation when we put the receiver in place. That's done that. We'll do the servo arm, which I think I have here in the box. Okay, servo arm, again, alloy, everyone's got no idea, don't hit anything, you won't break your servo. Alloy servo arm, a lot stronger than the plastic ones that come in the kits, and a lot better feel. So all I do here is to find centre for the servo as a starting point. Ooh, that's pretty good actually. Go 5 degrees off centre, that's going to be the servo. Horn, on that one we'll put a flathead. Alright, there's your flathead there, that little sucker there, that'll do the job. If you had to see my workstation, you would just go, holy cow, lots of stuff all over the place. Now this might have to be changed, but we don't at the moment. But we nip it up, we don't over tighten it, but that's now locked there. That's going to go back into position for the servo. Do the link and everything else a little bit later. I'm not going to worry about it now, but I'll just get that out of the way. Get the screws, 1 screw. And these, you never tighten them up until you've actually got all 3 in to make sure that it's locked in the right place. If you tighten them up prematurely, all that happens is you actually tend to ruin the actual carbon because you've got to manipulate it around. So you give it a couple of quick nip ups just to make sure that's centered. 1, 2 and 3. Done. That was pretty easy. Next I'll put in the receiver. Now with all installations, I use the thinnest, hardest tack, highest tack I should say, Servo tape I can find, only for the fear of it ever coming out on a crash. Now if you ever have to take it off the chassis, all you do is you put a screwdriver underneath the actual servo and pry it gently off, and it comes off clean. There's no residue left, which is the best. And it's either the Team Power's really thin high tack double-sided tape or Sellies, and Sellies make a really good product as well. It's the outdoor grey version, which is really sticky, and the longer it's actually held in position, basically the better it becomes on its tack onto the chassis. So you never do the whole receiver either, you only have to do a portion of it. So I tend to only put it every about halfway like that, cut off the excess, pull that off. I use Metho also just to clean the surface, to make sure that there's always going to be a clean surface to stick on. Now with this, because this has got an aerial is going to go into that position there, I normally allow a little bit of leeway. So I take this lead, bring the lead over to there. And when I put this into place, I leave the plugs on the outside. A lot of guys have their own preference, plugs in, plugs out, whatever it may be. I just make it easier for everyone on installation. If you need to get your plugs, it's quicker to get it with the plugs on the outside than on the in. And also because the receiver wire is out towards the back of the actual case, it's better to get it as close as possible to the actual point of entry on your aerial tube. So I tend to always do it this way. Final installation, just like that, as you see it there. So it just tucks the wire in there and out of the way, and the wire can always come back and into there, so it gives a little bit of length to you be able to manhandle it if you need to, but at least the wire comes out where it needs to, which is where the actual pivot point, or sorry, where the aerial tube sits. It makes it nice and clean installation, and it keeps the wire away from other, probably hitting on the front here on a car, on an accident, you'll rip the wire or something like that. Put that in.